I divorced my wife of 10 years because she received a positive standard test after going to her friend's wedding. When people say one moment can change your life, they were probably talking about mine. It amazes me how one small piece of paper discovered in my wife's purse changed everything. I am a 37-year-old man and I married my college sweetheart 10 years ago. Before that, we dated for 6 years. So in total, we have known each other for 16 years. I will call her Dove. She was my classmate in college and I considered her my soulmate. She truly was. A month ago, Dove's friend was getting married in a fairy tale wedding in Las Vegas. I was invited to, but I had something urgent at work that same week, so I had to skip it. It was an elaborate event that lasted for a week. When Dove returned, she was unusually quiet. I asked if everything was fine, and she said she was just tired after the week-long wedding festivities. That seems natural, so I gave her space. However, her behavior started troubling me. She turned cold, not only quiet but irritable. She began ignoring me and got agitated at every conversation. Our intimate life became non-existent. Whenever I tried to initiate intimacy, she'd snap and say she wasn't in the mood. It's been almost a month since the wedding, and we hadn't shared one intimate moment. As if that wasn't enough, I found something in her bag yesterday that made me anxious. A hospital bill. Dove had taken an STD test the day after returning from the wedding. Isn't that strange? Why would she do that? And why didn't she tell me? I knew it meant something obvious. I love her selflessly, but I am not a fool who can ignore such a huge red flag. I haven't confronted her yet. Before I do, I want to complete information about the test. I don't want to accuse her with half-baked knowledge. I value my marriage and my relationship with Dove. I don't want to destroy it impulsively. While researching STD test, I came across stories from others who had found their partners secretly undergoing such tests. More often than not, it was related to cheating. That's why I'm sharing my story, to see if I'm overreading the situation. I feel guilty admitting this, but I also snooped through Dove's phone a few days ago. I checked her chats, call logs, and social media accounts. Everything looked clean. I don't know if I should feel bad for doubting her or reassured that I am staying alert. I considered contacting her friends who attended the wedding, but since it was her school friend's wedding, none of our mutual college friends were there. I know her school friends, but not well enough to ask anything without raising Dove's suspicion. This whole thing feels surreal. In the last 10 years, Dove never gave me any reason to suspect her. We were always transparent with each other. Edited to add. I forgot to mention, according to the bill, she made the appointment the day after returning from the trip, but the actual test was done yesterday. The report date is set a week later. Dove's behavior had been concerning since her return. I checked her phone days ago and found nothing. When she came home from the test, she looked exhausted and tense. What made me suspicious was how carefully she hid her bag in the wardrobe. She usually just leaves it on the table or couch. I pretended not to notice but kept an eye on her. When she went to shower, I checked her purse and found the hospital bill. Update 1. Hello all. After reading the comments on my post, I realized I hadn't given any background info about Dove and me. I didn't think it was relevant, but here it is for context. Dove and I graduated from the same college. We're both software engineers working for different IT companies. We have a 6-year-old son. Financially, we've had a stable and comfortable life. We were a happy family until now, until Dove decided to screw up everything. After finding the STD test bill, I was restless. The comments on my last post and the stories of others all pointed to the same conclusion. Dove had cheated. I initially planned to wait for the results before confronting her, but I couldn't hold it in. Dove noticed something was wrong. The day I posted, she asked if I was okay. I nodded and faked a smile. She probably thought I was upset about her cold behavior. The next day, we sat at the dinner table. As we started eating, Dove again asked if I was doing well. I nodded, but a few minutes later, I blurted out, "So, how was your STD test?" She looked at me stunned. "Yeah," I repeated, "that STD test you took a few days ago." She turned pale and asked how I find out. I said, "It doesn't matter." Then she gave me the classic line, "I can explain. I told you to go ahead." She sighed, took a deep breath, and then started weeping. My heart sank. I knew that my suspicions were true. Dove held my hand and begged me to believe her. I told her I could only believe her if she explained. Instead, she pulled her chair close, leaned on my shoulder, held my arms tightly, and cried. I let her cry. In 16 years together, I had never seen her like this. Normally, I would confront her at even the slightest tear, but this time, I sat still, cold as ice. When she finished crying, she let go of my arms and confessed everything. It happened during her friend's bachelorette trip, which was part of the week-long wedding festivities. The first 2 days were the bachelorette party in Vegas. The event planner had arranged strippers, male escorts, everything. She said the bride and friends indulged right from the start, but Duff resisted. Her friends pressured her, but she said no. She saw the bride and others fulfilling their fantasies with escorts, but she held back. I used to trust her completely. She was never a liar, but this time it was hard to believe everything. I asked if she gave in because she felt left out. She said her friend convinced her that, having only been with me for 16 years, she needed to experience new blood. They talked about how escorts use different techniques to give unique pleasures. Duff still resisted, but eventually she agreed to an intimate massage. She thought that wouldn't be cheating and that it would help her avoid their pressure. But the masseur turned out to be an escort. After a back massage, he began undressing her. She resisted, but he said it was required for the session. She admitted she lost self-control and gave in. One thing led to another. She cheated on me. But it didn't stop there. When Duff told her friends what had happened, they cheered her on and urged her to explore further. They promised it would stay confidential and never reach me. Duff thought she had already cheated once, so what was the point of stopping now? So she went on to explore her fantasies. I appreciated her honesty, but it didn't change anything. Even if it was once, I wouldn't forgive her. I sat there lifeless, trying to process what she said. This woman in front of me was the love of my life, which is exactly why her betrayal hurt so much. She nudged me to say something. I hadn't spoken since her confession. I buried my face in my hands. She tried to hold me again, but I pulled away. Finally, I looked at her and said, "I'm going to file for divorce." She was shocked. She told me not to take an impulsive decision because of our son. I yelled at her to stop pretending to care. If she had truly cared about our family, she wouldn't have done what she did. I grabbed my car keys and left. She tried to follow, but I shrugged her off. I drove my friend's house. He recently had a divorce too, but that's another story. I drank until I passed out. The next morning, I called in sick at work. My friend went to the office while I lounged on his couch searching for divorce lawyers. I stumbled upon a lawyer who was my junior in school. He was added to my Instagram account, so I messaged him. He responded within a couple of hours. I asked for a call. He sensed the urgency and desperation in my messages and called me back within 30 minutes. His next available appointment slot was about 4 days later, but since I knew him, he asked if I could meet him late in the evening after work. I readily agreed. Instead of calling me to his office, he asked me to meet him for a drink. So the last evening, Duff confessed for cheating, and the next evening, I was sitting with my lawyer discussing my divorce. He asked me to sleep over my decision and see if the emotions subsided and whether I would decide to give her a chance. I told him that I was mindfully making this decision. I relayed my divorce terms to him, and he assured me of starting the paperwork immediately. I requested him to fast-track the process because I wanted to get it done as soon as possible. Anyone who heard me would have assumed I was making an impulsive decision, but I was not. I love Duff, but not more than my self-respect. I told him that I trusted Duff with my life, and if I am taking this decision, it is definitely serious. I cannot let her get away with the cheating. The next day, I went home in the afternoon. I thought she would be at work, but she was at home. She had become miserable just in the last few days. As soon as she saw me, she rushed toward me and tried to hug me, asking where I had been for the last 2 days and why I was not responding to her calls and messages. I wanted to push her away, but she looked so pale and fragile that I could not do so. I let her hug me, but I didn't touch her. I stood stiff. She kept saying sorry, but I remained unmoved. She held my face in her palms and nudged me to say something. She said my silence was killing her. I asked her about our son. She said she had dropped him off at my parents' house for a few days. I freed myself, went to my room and bolted it. She would not have let me back if I had let her in. I packed some of my clothes, laptop tabs, and essentials, and hurriedly left the house while she was in the kitchen. She followed me outside, trying to stop me, but I didn't look back and drove off. I checked into a hotel and then went to my parents' house to meet my son. I wanted to tell them everything but resisted because I had something else in mind. It's almost a week now. I've been working from the hotel. I've taken permission to work remotely for these months. Doug had tried to contact me through all possible means. Calls, texts, voicemails, showing up at my workplace, crashing at my friend's place, and at local bars and restaurants that I often visit. One of our common friends called me today and asked if I was fine. He said that Dove had been looking for me across the entire city. I asked him if she had told him the reason. He said that whoever was asking, Dove had been telling them that I left the house after a severe argument about something. I said yes, I'm safe, but I needed some time to cool off. A few hours ago, I called up my lawyer to follow up regarding the divorce papers. He said to expect them to be shipped to me in the next few days. I'm waiting until the divorce papers arrive. I'll make an update once I sort out this case. Update 2. It took a while for me to update this, but I wanted to sort everything out before posting. This will be my last update. So after 10 days since the day the divorce papers arrived, it was Saturday. The next morning, I went to my house. The situation was the same. Dove was lifelessly laying on the couch while my son was playing in the living room. He ran toward me and hugged me since we hadn't met in a week. This time, Dove was stiff. She didn't hug me. Instead, she gave me a cold stare. I played with my son for a few minutes, then left him alone and sat on a chair. Dove looked at me with a straight face and asked what I wanted. I smirked at her question without saying anything. She asked if there was anything she could do to make things better. I still remained quiet. After a while, she said, "Look, I know I've hurt you and ruined everything, but I am guilty about it. I accept that what I did was a grave crime, but you need to see that I could have skipped the STD test and you would never have known. But I took the test for your safety and to protect you. I love you. I'm sorry for what I did, but you also need to acknowledge that I honestly confessed the truth when I could have easily lied. We need to solve this instead of running away from it. Tell me if there is anything I can do to fix this." I replied, "Yes, I told her to confess her cheating in front of my parents and hers." She gave me a stern look. I said, "What? You can do it, right?" She took a deep breath and said if this was something that would make me happy and satisfied. She was ready to do it. I asked her to go on and invite them in the evening. After staring at me for a couple of minutes and seeing the coldness in my eyes, she took her phone and called up her parents and mine, one by one, asking them to join us that evening. After the calls, she looked at me with defeated eyes. I took a shower and was surfing my iPad when she entered the room and said she had prepared lunch for us. I wanted to avoid it, but I knew deep down it was going to be our last meal as a family, so I went and sat at the table. She served me and my son, and we all ate together. I felt bad seeing my son's face, realizing this was probably the last time he would have a meal with both his parents. I know people will call me egoistic and chauvinistic for destroying my happy family over just one mistake of Dove, but I don't care what others think. I know that when my son grows up, he'll be glad I chose my self-respect over love and emotions. A child deserves happy parents who may live separately rather than once trapped in a broken marriage. And our marriage was broken the moment Dove opened her legs for another man. After lunch, Dove took our son to his room for an afternoon nap. When she returned to our bedroom, I was scrolling through my phone. She tried to touch me. I stopped her and asked if her STD reports had come. She said she was clean and started touching me again. Knowing this would be our last time, I gave in. It was the most amazing intimacy we had in a long time. Afterward, I felt guilty and sad, but also satisfied. She was the only woman I'd been with for the last 16 years. I loved her, and it broke me to think that I was pushing her away forever. I also regretted having intimacy with her because it might have given her hope of reconciliation. She fell asleep in my arms as she hadn't slept in days. I looked at her face and wondered how she could do this to us. I don't know when I dozed off while staring at her pretty face. We woke up when our son knocked on the door. I opened it for him. He played with us on the bed. It was such bliss. For a moment, I truly felt like retreating from my decision and giving the marriage another chance. But I suppressed it and got out of bed. It was already evening. I sat in the living room, waiting for our parents to arrive. After a while, everyone was there. Once they settled down, Dove called me into the kitchen and asked with intense eyes if I really wanted to do this. I said yes. She then went out and told everyone she had something to confess. She admitted that she had cheated on me at her friend's wedding, but claimed it didn't mean anything. She said she loved me and would do anything for me. She added that I had asked her to inform everyone. It happened so fast that my parents thought it was a prank. I told them it wasn't. I added that I found out when I discovered the STD test bill in her purse. Her parents looked down in embarrassment and anger. My parents were also disappointed but didn't say anything. I told everyone I had something to say too. I had filed for divorce. I pulled out the divorce papers and started reading the terms. Dove tried to interrupt me, but I continued. I said she and our son could live in the house and I would move out. We'd have joint custody and I would pay child support. After reading it, I handed the papers to her. She gave me a disgusted look and said I tricked her into this. She glanced through them and signed right away. Her parents stood up and left without a word. My parents left too, but asked if I wanted to move in with them. I nodded and said I'd think about it. Dove went to our son's room and locked the door. She felt humiliated in front of our families and defeated that her confession meant nothing. I packed my remaining things and left. I wanted to see my son, but I knew she wouldn't allow it. That's why she locked herself in the room. After that evening, I didn't get any calls or texts from Dove. Around 45 days later, we appeared in court. Our divorce was settled amicably, with no contest. We didn't say anything to each other. It's been more than a week since. I've been busy finding and settling into a new house. We may cross paths because of our son, but it will be purely transactional. I still feel empty and frustrated because I know I've also hurt her and humiliated her. Maybe we both got what we deserved. What do you think? Is the author right about not forgiving the cheating and divorcing his wife? What would you do in this situation? Looking for your comments, subscribe, and see you in the next